I am currently working on a video about Wonder Woman, and it made me curious about the past of Black characters in comic books. So, with Black History Month upon us, I thought I would share what I found. Orrin Cromwell Evans was the first Black writer to work for a mainstream white newspaper and was a strong advocate of racial equality. He believed that he could use the comic book medium to further highlight the history of African American journalism. With four others, he created the publishing company All-Negro Comics, which was the first of its kind with Black writers and artists. 1947. In 1947, they published their first comic book, using the same name as their company. Unfortunately, this was the only issue published. Evans was unable to purchase the newsprint required for issue number 2, and some believed it was bigotry among the distributors. 1954. Marvel, back then known as Atlas, was the first mainstream comic book company to feature a person of color with Jungle Tales. It had 7 issues from September 1954 to September 1955 and focused on different adventures set in Africa. One regular to this series was Waku, Prince of Bantu. 1963. In comic books, Black characters were few and in between, but Stan Lee and Jack Kirby was intent on changing that. In 1963, they added the Black character Gabe Jones to the cast of Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Stan Lee also encouraged artists to include Black characters in the crowd scenes. 1963. Marvel also added another recurring Black character, that being Jill Jared, in the series Modeling with Millie. She starred in 16 issues. 1965. So recap. In 47 was the first comic book. In 54, the first feature star. In 63, it was recurring characters. And in 1965, it was the first African American hero to headline in his own comic book series called Lobo. Published with Dell Comics, Lobo only had 2 issues to tell the story of this wealthy Western character who would leave a calling card of a gold coin imprinted with the images of a wolf and the letter L. 1966. Stan Lee stated that his motivation to include more Black characters was not because of civil rights, but that he had a lot of friends who were Black, and there were a lot of Black artists, but no Black superheroes. Until Black Panther, that is. T'Challa, King of Wakanda, aka Black Panther, first appeared in Fantastic Four issue number 52. Besides working with Fantastic Four, he appeared with Captain America and joined the Avengers in 1968. 1973. Black Panther received his first starring feature with Jungle Action number 5 in 1973. Prior to that issue, Marvel felt that white characters in an African setting was culturally outdated and ordered a rewrite, with the set being in Africa. Thus, superhero Black Panther took over the starring role in issue 5. When artist Jack Kirby created the original concept art for Black Panther, he used the name Cold Tiger, which then was changed before publication. Stan Lee has said that the name Black Panther was inspired by an adventure hero who had a Black Panther as a helper. In 1972, Fantastic Four issue number 119, they briefly tried using the name Black Leopard, to avoid association with the Black Panther Party, even though the comic book character predated this political organization. The name changed back in the Avengers issue number 105, with T'Challa explaining that renaming himself did not make any sense, as he was not a stereotype. Even though this video is about comic book characters, I would be remiss if I did not make mention of the passing of actor Chadwick Boseman, who played the role of King of Wakanda in the Marvel Studios film version of Black Panther. Chadwick was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2016, but that did not stop him from appearing in the 2018 movie. He lost the battle with cancer on August 28, 2020, at the age of 43. He was a true fighter and he will be greatly missed. (1966). The character Dr. William Foster was created by Stan Lee in the number 32 issue of Avengers. Later, he became known as Black Goliath, Giant Man, and Goliath. 1969. Black Panther might have been the first African mainstream superhero, but Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, is the first African American mainstream superhero in the Marvel Comics. He was introduced in Captain America issue number 117 and became his superhero partner. This character was also significant as he was the first black superhero not having the word black in his name. 1972. Luke Cage was the first Black American superhero to star in his own comic book series, which came out in 1972. Luke Cage Hero for Hire issue number 1. Later, issue number 17, he would be retitled to Power Man. The title is not the only thing to change. His original look consisted of an afro and wild 1970s outfits. In modern comics, his appearance is a shaved head, jeans, and a muscle shirt. 1971. John Stewart was the first African American superhero to appear in DC Comics. He is one of the characters known as Green Lantern and appeared in 1971. Fun fact, the original design for this character was based on actor Sidney Poitier. Artist Neil Adams came up with the idea to make the character black and said, given the racial makeup of the world's population, we ought to have a black Green Lantern, not because we are liberals, but because it just makes sense. I came across something interesting when researching the character of Green Lantern. Writer Denny O'Neil and artist Neil Adams created a series where Green Lantern and Green Arrow took on issues like racism. Prior to having a black man becoming Green Lantern, in April of 1970, issue number 76, an elderly man confronts Green Lantern about not being there for black people. And it was later said about this issue, no one had played with the dynamite sticks of black dissatisfaction and white guilt like this in the genre before. 1973. Eric Brooks, aka Blade, appeared in the comic book The Tomb of Dracula, issue number 10 in 1973. He appeared in many other series, but his first solo comic book, Blade, the Vampire Hunter, was not until 1994. 1975. Ororo Munroe, aka Stormm, is the first black female superhero and the first black member of the X-Men. Her earliest appearance was in Giant Size X-Men issue number 1 in 1975. In my research, I came across something that I was not even aware of. In the comic books, T'Challa, Black Panther, and Aroo, Storm, were childhood sweethearts. Their relationship ended when T'Challa was consumed with avenging his father's death. Through different storylines in the comic book world, their paths would cross, but they finally reunited in 2006 and got married. Unfortunately, that marriage did not last. 6 years later, when Black Panther joined the Avengers, they found themselves in conflict with being on opposing sides, Avengers versus X-Men, and ended up divorcing. 1981. Vixen was supposed to be the first African female DC superhero to star in her own series, but unfortunately it was canceled. She finally made her debut in Action Comics in 1981, issue number 521, and then primarily appeared with teams such as Justice League and Suicide Squad. Finally, in 2008, she had her own 5-issue series called Vixen Return of the Lion. If you'd like to further investigate more Black superheroes, check out the book Super Black: American Pop Culture and Black Superheroes. I will leave a link to Amazon or just type in the name at any bookstore. Thanks for watching, and as always, comment below.